Well, greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt with the American Orthodontic Society, and I want to discuss the Airway. And you know what are we talking about when we say the Airway up here? And so I'm going to show you a real skull that I acquired about 50 or 60 years ago. And then they got to where you couldn't buy these skulls that were actually the skulls of people that where they got them, I don't know. But anyway, they had quit selling them. But I had this skull, and I'm going to show you what the Airway is in this video, and I'll try to tie together these different things that cause malocclusions to develop simply because somebody's breathing wrong. And you don't think about that. It just having breathing through the mouth can cause a whole host of other problems with facial development in here. So let's get going here, and we'll try to cover this. I'm just going to show you these skull pictures. And when we come in to open the palate up, we'll separate this suture right through here. And I learned early on that you could put pressure in between the centrals here. It's even better if you go in the cortical bone and put some pins and separate from that. You're pushing the teeth, and so you have to carry the separator. And then you got your palatal separator deal in here going out to the different teeth that would be further up in the mouth. And you're trying to separate back here, trying to separate here. This is where most of the bone is. And so we learned that you could put pressure up here as well as pressure back here and separate the palate on somebody up in their 30s, and then a few people in their 40s. And if you don't separate this, you can still expand the palates of anybody as long as they're living. You can expand their palate when you go in there to do that. Okay. All right. You can expand anybody's palate as long as they're living. It doesn't matter. Now that goes into our Big Daddy arch wire and putting pressure on the roots of the teeth to go apart as well as the crown. But let's get back to palatal separators, and they end up, if you just coming across here, here's where most of your bone is. You get out here, and you can separate people up to like 20, 30, and a few people in their 40s just with a palatal separator like that. And it'll separate that portion. Now, what is in the Airway? Well, the Airway's got 3 terminates in it. This is 1 or 2, and this is a bad picture to show you all of it, but we cut. I want you to see the terminates in here. Now here is the first, second, and there'll be a little one up in here. Now if these terminates are covered with a soft tissue and has jillions of little hairs coming out from that, and they stay moist all the time. It doesn't matter where your mouth will dry up frequently, but your nose, the tissue there doesn't. It stays moist, and you can collect junk breathing. I know used to when we were baling hay and stuff, you'd have so much mess in there that you could hardly breathe. You'd suck some of that down or spit it out, and it looked like junk in there. This catches the stuff. So if you breathe through the mouth constantly, you're going to suck that stuff down into the lungs. And that's a no-no too. Now this is the septum right between here. And somebody you have a deviated septum, it'll go over and close one side and it'll open the other side. So we have problems with the septum, problems with the turbinates, and if you have an allergy and you don't have adequate room in here, they can swell up and completely close, and you have to breathe through your mouth then. So that's a problem that comes up. Now let's go on. This is just showing you straight on. You look at it and you see the turbinates. There's 3 of them. They come in, sometimes they can come in and freeze a part of the turbinate to reduce the blockage in there and open it up without actually spreading this whole thing out. Now, here on this skull, this is the sinus, the nasal sinus right here. It drains through the nose, and sometimes you get it clogged up, and the seepage out in there stop your airway up, and you have a problem with airway. This is again showing that the major part of the bone is out here when we separate this. So if we're pushing the separator from this area, you need to get out in here, get in here, and be pushing apart with this bone, and you can separate it a lot further down the line in there, that way. Now this is just showing open up. You separate here and this part, and these are the turbinates, and that's what you spread that out up there and develop the turbinates. And here's another picture of the turbinates. And you can take them to an ENT person. If someone says your airway is bad, don't take them to an ENT guy and he'll spray the nose and shrink the tissue and say, well, you don't have any problem. But you can't run around with a spray all the time doing that. So you need to widen the thing out. And that's where we correct most of these airway things, is just developing the maxilla outside. Now, people who breathe through the mouth, the tongue has to stay on the bottom arch, and the bottom arch will get wider than the upper arch. And the upper arch doesn't get the pressure to develop it out, and so you have a narrow upper arch, and that reduces the airway. So we go in and restore that, and we can do that on adults as well as kids. Okay. Maybe this gives you an idea of what, if you take and squish this together up here, these don't develop good. You need to widen this out, see, so this will have better thing. So when you're separating the palate, you have to bring the roots of the teeth out with the crowns, and that causes this whole thing to develop out here like it should be, and that restores the airway. So this is something I wanted people to understand, and so we're doing this video just to show that. Thank you for watching now, and I'm going to go ahead and close up, and we'll get on to another subject here. We're going to talk about the airway though again, so I'm going to say goodbye for this part.